At the same time, today, the DA is taking government to court. The main opposition wants an end to the nationwide lockdown, which it says is tearing society and the economy to pieces. The party is expected to file papers in the High Court this afternoon. Our reporter Samkele Maseko is on that story. Samkele, tell us a bit more about this legal challenge, posing some idea that some of the lockdown regulations are irrational.
Yes, indeed, Francis. The Democratic Alliance, led by their interim leader, John Steenhuisen, will this afternoon be approaching the High Courts with regards to what they perceive as the hard lockdown, wanting an end to it and saying that, let me read from their statement, tearing our society and our economy to pieces. This is the court action that the Democratic Alliance will be embarking on this afternoon. It goes on to speak about, to say that, quote, this afternoon our lawyers will file papers in the High Court challenging the rationality of 3 separate lockdown-related decisions: the night curfew, restrictions on e-commerce, and going on to say that the limited 3-hour window for exercise, this cannot be justified and should be immediately reversed. So the Democratic Alliance is essentially moving with that court bid, but that's not the only court action they will be taking. They are also going on to speak about the constitutionality of the Command Council, in saying that they're going to look into the state of disaster, and which will be in contrast to the state of emergency that is gazetted in the government and the regulations of the South African Constitution, saying that they need to draw parallels between the two, because in the state of disaster there are no checks and balances of the decisions that the executive makes, and that Parliament does not have the authority to do its oversight work when it comes to the functions of the executive. So these are the decisions that the Democratic Alliance are embarking on and challenging. You've seen their interim leader, John Steenhuisen, in the past week questioning the constitutionality of the decisions that are taken by the National Command Council vis-a-vis to the decisions that are taken by the National Cabinet. So they are embarking on court action to try and find the separation of powers between the two, of state and also the work of the legislature, which is the parliamentary leg of the executive, of the state rather.
Not challenging the lockdown in its entirety in this first leg that you talk about, but some aspects of the lockdown.
They are challenging basically the harsh and the lockdown, which is level 4 that we are currently embarking on. For instance, you've heard President Cyril Ramaphosa now speaking in the Eastern Cape, saying that there was consensus amongst all political parties when it comes to the various stages of this lockdown, from level 5, level 4, level 3, level 2, level 1, and that there was a broad consensus when the decisions were taken to put the country on a 29-day lockdown, which was initially the one that we were on, and then it was extended to this current level 4 of the lockdown that we currently have, which the Democratic Alliance has since backtracked on and moved to say that they are not particularly happy that the economy has not come on stream to basically come with regards to working, and they are calling on the economy to kickstart and to come and fire on all cylinders. For instance, you've had the Premier of the Western Cape, Alan Winde, saying that the Western Cape is now ready to go on level 3 of the lockdown, who himself is currently on self-isolation or quarantine, if one may put it like that. But I'm going to go further to speak on the issues of the state of emergency and the parallel of the state of disaster, which the Democratic Alliance wants clarity on. They state in their statement that, quote, the state of disaster we are currently under, governed by the Disaster Management Act, has zero provision for oversight. The secretive NCC answers to no one. End of quote, when it comes to the issue of the state of disaster. So they are saying in a state of disaster, the executive has free reign. There is no oversight that is being done by a parliament and the various parliamentary committees that are there. But one may say that various parliamentary committees have been holding their meetings. I saw one of public enterprises where the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, was particularly grilled on that one. And I also saw leaders of the Democratic Alliance basically saying that the Minister of Minister Ibrahim Patel has gone AWOL and he didn't attend to a parliamentary committee virtual meeting he was supposed to be on, and that was later on shifted to the weekend. But they also go on to speak briefly on, quote, a state of emergency which confers sweeping executive power and is further a step up from a state of disaster, has parliamentary oversight. So there is no logical reason that a state of disaster would not have this. This surely could not have been in the intention of the authors of the disaster Management Act, end of quote. So they are basically drawing the parallels between a state of disaster and a state of emergency, saying that the state of disaster which we are currently on has no oversight powers for Parliament to do its work, which effectively is the playground of opposition parties to hold the executive and the government of the day to account.
An interesting legal challenge. How should the state of disaster work? Samkele, very, very quickly, have you had a chance to ask the DA why are they still pushing with the other aspects of the court challenge, when the president specifically mentioned last night that e-commerce, more of it may open up, and that they are looking at those exercise hours?
Interestingly, you've had the president specifically speaking last night and saying that in the various consultations that will be taking place over the next few weeks, that areas such as e-commerce will be deliberated upon, more of e-commerce activity or businesses will be coming on stream, and that there will be less restrictions and more businesses opening up, for instance, on the current level 4. So it's rather surprising that the Democratic Alliance has opted for this particular legal avenue that they are seeking for a legal recourse. You've also had the president down in the Eastern Cape saying that there was consensus on these issues and that no laws are being broken and that all decisions are being thoroughly thought through and taken, and also apologized for some of the confusing messages that have been communicated by the various ministers. For instance, I know that Minister Ibrahim Patel of Trade and Industry did come into the fore on this particular matter of sending out confusing messages, particularly when it comes to retail stores.
All right, thank you very much, Samkele Maseko, SABC reporter there, and we'll follow that legal challenge board.